Welcome to Manning Up with Deborah Manning, an old friend of mine, heard exclusively on MalcolmPresents.com, a streaming platform heard around the world and beyond. I'm still trying to get the diameter of where the boundaries are beyond, because it could be, I don't know if it goes up into, outside of our solar system, but I believe it does.
It probably does, Malcolm.
Yeah,
You bet.
I never could see fathom eternity. There's no end.
Hmm.
You
How
know,
are you
this,
today? How are you today?
I'm okay. I mean, the weather's nice here. I see you have a visitor in the back.
Yes, I do. This is Ziggy. He was a little kitten that we ended up rescuing when we moved here to South Carolina. We when we got a chance to buy a home finally.
Yeah.
We had a number of cats find us, so I could not close my door to these cats. So we now have six. We have six cats that found us. I've closed the door at this point. There's no more room at the inn. But he was a tiny little fella, and it took us 2 days to capture him. And interestingly
Well, you
enough,
shouldn't say capture him. You should it's like he's not captured. He has free reign, doesn't he?
he does absolutely. How I was able to get him calmed down. He was a little kitten. I mean, literally, he was this big,
And
and
where was his mama?
well, he had been abandoned along with a brother. We didn't realize later that the brother unfortunately didn't make it. But I was bringing in Sylvester, our big 22-pound tuxedo cat, one evening because we always have the cats come in the evening. There's no way I'm letting these guys out. And then all of a sudden, as I've got the door half open and half closed, suddenly Sylvester looks at me and says, "Hey, did you hear that?" And I said, "What are you talking about? What are you talking about?" And all of a sudden, I heard this little meow, meow, meow. And it was kitten language for help, help, help. So Sylvester bolted across the backyard, and we're up against an old dilapidated building at the time. It's now, been cherried out, what have you. But it was an old dilapidated building. And sure enough, Sylvester led my husband out on a journey trying to find this little kitten. And sure enough, Fish, my husband's nickname is Fish because he's an artist, said, Deb, guess what? I found a little kitten. It's a little kitten. It took us 2 days to track this cat down. And when I finally did capture him, I was worried that he would really have gone feral. But you know what happened that calms down a cat? It's really interesting. I don't know whether you can see or not, but there's a little place on the kitty cat, Ziggy,
It's
a
known
little
as
place on the forehead. There's a
it's
little
known as
place on the
The
forehead.
G spot.
It is. And you know what? It calmed, no, it's funny. It calmed him down to the point when I had put him into the cat cage. And once again, he's a teeny tiny thing like this. And I rubbed him like this, and all of a sudden he looked at me, stopped spitting, and said, "Oh my God, I'm home." I said, "You're home. You're
Oh, so
home."
with me, you go like this
Oh,
under the chin, and I and I purr.
there you go. But that's Ziggy. He's one of the six. He's one of the permanent indoor members because I don't think my psyche could handle all six cats being outdoors. But we've got three of them inside and three of them that actually go outside. But it's
Yeah,
been very odd because the weather here, we were down to 13 degrees about 2 days ago at early morning. Holy smokies. It fortunately no snow, but unbelievable amounts of ice and what have you. We're now at 67, almost 70 degrees.
wow.
We're expecting another big storm to come in tomorrow. Now we got yesterday from the storm about 2 3/4 inches. And for the entire month of January, we're now close to 11 inches of rain, which is fabulous because we're surrounded by 100-foot, 150-foot oaks that I can see from here. Enormous, enormous oaks. The area that we're in used to be, of all things, an old golf course back in 1905. And this house is a 1948 bungalow. So we've got the benefit of having an old golf course now, and then the benefit of the beautiful trees. But I do have to say, it sure likes having the rain. Boy, oh boy, there is real weather. There is real weather here. And you'll probably hear on my cell phone, you'll hear a message coming in asking us to be warned of floods and blah, 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 and all of that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, we're getting that up over here, well, up north, so forth. Thank God, Southern California has been pretty, right now it's about 62, 63 degrees and sunshine. But like
nice.
Ventura and up north, they've been having floods. I mean, literally, let me turn off my phone. You hear my,
Well, it's funny. We we moved from Santa Barbara
hmm.
8 years ago now, and we had a number of clients in the Montecito area. And when the burn took place a couple of years ago, and then subsequently the big flood, we lost some clients to the mudslides, which just is unfathomable to me. Just a horrific situation.
Well, they're
So
having, I was reading in the paper the other day, they had enough rain for like 3 months. It came down like in a few hours.
yeah,
And supposedly I don't know who exactly was it, but the weather people
yeah.
said, this was a once in a 10,000 year or 1,000 year happening. And one of the other guys says, no, 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 this is going to happen more often. This is going to be almost commonplace. And it's the El Nino effect. So due to the weather variations, the climate change. So
Well,
we're in,
the one thing I do like about South Carolina, as I say, I'm a native Californian, and I mean I love California. That's where my folks fought from trying to get out after the war, trying to get out of the East Coast into the West Coast, and they wanted to make a brand new life, which they did, of course. But for my husband and I, um, we decided to come east, and it's been a real blessing. As I've mentioned before, I've not really been a religious person, but I'm highly religious now. We thank God every morning, every afternoon, and every night for the fact that we were able to land here. We can actually afford the house, and we don't have to be concerned about rents going up and what have you. Although I must say, we have been very much impacted at the grocery store and of course by the gas prices, et cetera, et cetera. But let's move on to something that has now been happening. I know that we weren't going to talk about politics, but we will a little bit because in South Carolina we're now being inundated with the Nikki Haley commercials and the Donald Trump commercials. You cannot get away from them. 2 months ago, we were inundated by the Medicare and Medi-Cal commercials. You must change your mind and you must, sign up for this and such and so. But the war going on between Nikki Haley, who used to be our governor here back in 2015, 2016, and Donald Trump, it's getting nasty to say the least. Um, how do you perceive this? What do you think is going to happen?
uh, well, as far as I get from the news, it's that Donald Trump's going to win because most of the politicians of South Carolina have abandoned Nikki. I know that, which I was disappointed. Tom Scott, who was running he was wanted to be president.
Yeah, Tim
Uh,
Scott.
yeah, for former senator, he sort of dropped out on endorsing Trump. And as a matter of fact, most of the politicians from South Carolina have been endorsing Trump. And Nikki Haley had appointed Scott as senator. So that was
And of course, Nikki Haley was appointed to be the UN ambassador, a
right,
post that she left early to go onto the boards of several corporations. Trump wasn't all that happy about things.
right. Well, Trump originally loved her. He thought she was great,
Mhm.
and
Well, I
now,
thought she was good. She was very firm with the United Nations, which I very much appreciated after the flood of capitulation that you saw the last couple of years.
well,
Um,
I hate the way he campaigns. I hate his reference to people. Like I forget her first name, but her first name, she's Lebanese. And he uses her first name instead of Nikki, and he like mispronounces it. It's sort of like he always did with Obama, and it was Hussein Barack Obama.
Well, at least you can remember some of the names. Unfortunately, our president can't seem to remember the names. Not only that, but I remember his last speech where he thought he had taken a picture with someone called Deborah, not me, but someone called Deborah, and Deborah wasn't even there. So I wonder who did he who did he take the
Oh,
picture with? I don't mean to
This,
make fun. I
there
mean,
seems there seems to be also our ex-president makes different referrals. So he thinks he's running against Obama. It's again, I think it's a real sad commentary on both parties and the U.S. government that the only thing that they could find to run again is an 81-year-old man and a 78-year-old man. Not that they're not that they're bad but they're slower and they don't have the energy. I don't know about you, but as I get older, I don't have the energy that I had when I was 40, 50 years old. I
well,
cannot I
I think at
cannot
this
go out.
point, what people are looking to have is a return of the common sense policies. I do find it astonishing, and it was just this last 2 days, I think, ago, that the Supreme Court came out and said that the state of Texas and Governor Abbott had to take down the barbed wire that was preventing the illegal migration in I think it was called, what is it, Eagles Pass or something.
Sure.
At any rate, I do find it interesting that the federal government would do battle with the states, a state that's trying at this point right now to enforce the immigration laws. You and I talked about it last time we had discussed. Why are they not going through the ports of entry? I don't get it, and I don't get how the federal government thinks it's got the ability to go up against a state like Texas. I'll tell you a brief story because this immigration situation is going to impact everybody. It impacted us about a year ago when the next door neighbor, a rental property, we had interesting individuals move in next door, mostly Hispanic. And we had a situation where we had a prostitution ring that was undergoing, we had a drug ring. And then we also, the final straw for me, of course, was the child trafficking. And it took us 7 months of uniting the neighbors here and getting the police department to do something about it, to urge the cartel to move on out. These incidences, we're starting to see more and more. And what happened with our neighbors, and it took a lot of time to get people to realize that you actually could make a difference. We all ended up getting Ring cameras, so the police then could get the license numbers, makes, and models of the automobiles. But to make a long story short, it took us 7 months to get the cartel out, and where they definitely were doing criminal activities. Now, once again, I'm as fair-minded and understanding of immigrants as anybody, but I do not have toleration for that sort of criminal activity. And I think that as ordinary folks, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to do the podcast of Manning Up, you can specifically do very specific things to make sure that you, your family, and your neighborhood are safe. Once again, we ended up going down to the county sheriff's department, and I took along with me a shell casing because I was told by the cartel that they were going to shoot me. And sure enough, we had a drive-by shooting. We had a drive-by shooting. Now, I was expecting it, I guess, out of LA or maybe even Santa Barbara or Long Beach, where I've lived before. But I was shocked to see it happen here in Greenville, South Carolina.
Yeah.
And more of us are going to see this sort of activity.
Okay.
I think that when Governor Abbott has now labeled this as being an invasion, in fact, when you have the numbers of people coming across the border, not coming through the ports of entry as they should be doing, I think we have a real serious problem. And the other issue that is just amazing to me is the number of military-aged men, single men who are coming across the border. And you can't tell me that that doesn't cause some concern, especially Chinese. The China CCP does not allow their Chinese men any place to go unless they have been directed. And I think they've been directed here to America.
They've been coming across the border in Mexico?
They're coming across the border in Mexico. Absolutely.
Because I would think they would really fly in or be boated in.
I don't know. They're
But
coming in
anyway,
through
number
Mexico.
one, what you the first thing you're talking about, as far as the article that I read,
Mhm.
uh, or that I heard, was what they didn't allow is the federal officials in that area. That was the big thing, that the Texas police weren't allowed the federal officials into that area to do any, they were kept out with the barbed wire. And according to our Constitution, immigration is controlled by the federal government, not by state governments.
Well, the
I
problem is it's not being controlled by the federal
right.
government.
I agree with you.
Mhm.
I mean, I agree with you that uh there's two lacks. But when I listen to the ex-president, basically he's brushing over all the immigrants coming in as smugglers, as rapists,
Well, then
as
unfortunately,
a crime.
we've gone the other way. We've gone too far the other way.
Yeah,
I understand your point, but we've gone too far the other way. And I have to tell you, for a neighborhood such as ours, we're a working class neighborhood. We're not fancy dancy, I'll tell you that. But to have a working class neighborhood, to have this type of activity,
I,
the activity that was taking place all night, all
mm,
day and all night, and it took us 7 months to get these people out.
I,
It was quite startling to me.
but this is one thing I agree with you. But the
Yep.
question is, he blankets all the immigrants as outlaws, as criminals, as rapists, and
Well, if they end up going through
a
the ports of
majority of them
entry,
are
if
Hispanics.
if we have people going through the ports of entry, if we have clear identification and we have good people coming through to the United States, we are a country of immigrants, for crying out loud. But to
Right, but
have this wholesale invasion, and it
I,
is,
I well, I,
I think
I I
calling it
agree
an
with you,
invasion is the way to talk about it.
but that is the worldwide situation. The question is, what do you do with these people? Uh,
You
the
tell them to stop. You tell them to stop. They stay in Mexico. They come through the ports of entry. You do it in a civilized manner. You do not end up
right, but we
boarding
don't.
the Rio Grande.
But we don't have the legal system to process them.
Then you
There,
have them slow down, because at
yeah,
this
yeah,
point right
yeah,
now, the amount of money that these cartels are making, absolutely
but
unbelievable.
I think the cartels are smuggling in in other ways versus illegal immigrants. They're smuggling in via shipping, via planes. There are tunnels that the immigrants aren't going over. The immigrants are crossing the Rio Grande. I mean, they're not going through the maze of tunnels. It's almost like now you have in Gaza. There's a maze of tunnels that going under the barbed wire. And
Well, the
we and we
unfortunate the unfortunate thing is you have a number of people that are having to pay anywhere from five to ten to fifteen
right.
thousand dollars to the cartel. Now, are they having the money up front? Or my experience has been, because I'm a former news reporter out of Los Angeles and out of San Diego, is that they end up working. When they end
Right.
up working, they'll send that money back into the cartels. You can't
I
keep
totally agree with you,
subsidizing
but
it.
there's no way for these people to come here. The problem is the choice is to be controlled by the gangs in their home country or be killed. I
But
mean,
you should not have the United States government aiding and abetting criminal
okay,
activity like the cartels.
okay. Well, then the question is, if these people are going to come to the border,
Mhm.
right? What do they do? What do you do with them?
You put them through the ports of entry. You don't allow them into the
Right, but what
United
do you do with
States
them when it
until
builds
such
up?
time as the stay in Mexico, oddly enough, seemed to work.
No, it never worked. But the thing is, I agree with it, but it's both the fault of both parties. It's not only blaming it on Republicans or Democrats.
Well,
Uh,
the Democrats are in power at this point right now, and we did not have this same
well,
situation with the Trump administration.
first of all, the world situation is different, but I don't believe actually a word that former president says. because he grandizes it. I mean, he was the best friends with Mao Zedong, right? He was best friends with Putin. None of this would happen if he was president. He was best friends with everybody, and he had
I
such
am
a
looking
great
at what
he had a
actually
great trip.
happened. How many people came across the border the prior administration? I don't care about Trump as an individual. I am
Uh,
not married to him.
a lot of people. I don't know the exact numbers, but the question is, what do you do about them? You say, okay, it's not our problem. It's not the United States problem. Let them stay in Mexico and die. You know, what do you do with them? You ship them home so they can be killed there, or
And
you
then
keep
we
them in
have an
Mexico.
opportunity to bring them here into the United States so they can freeze up
But
here in New York and
but
in
well,
Chicago.
but them freezing in New York and Chicago might be better than them living in a war-torn countries. But
I
anyway,
don't, I don't think so. Because at
but
this point right now, how in the world, even when you have Democratic mayors saying, we can't handle this more. The New York City mayor said
I
we
agree
can't
with you, but
handle it anymore.
well, okay.
Chicago can't handle it anymore.
So why isn't the why aren't there any laws passed by Congress?
Well, there are laws, and those laws are not being enforced.
No, but we need new laws. It's a different time. It's a different
Now,
age.
we have existing
Our
laws that would
existing
take
laws
care of the
is I
situation.
think 40 or
The existing laws, Malcolm, do not allow people to ford the Rio Grande, then go through barbed wire. They are supposed to go through
right,
the ports of
right,
entry.
but they for a world, I think we not have not done anything with immigration for 40, 50 years.
Well,
The
I think
world,
we have done something with immigration.
the
We
world is
didn't have this problem. We didn't have this problem 4 or 5 years ago. We didn't have what's also interesting, and the other thing that's very interesting, did you hear that the FBI, former FBI agents, CIA agents, signed a letter and sent the letter to the Senate and the House saying that we are in the most dangerous period of time because we have allowed terrorists and enemies of the United States to enter, and we have no idea where they are. Did you hear about that? That letter
No, I
broke
haven't
news
seen this.
last night around 10 o'clock.
Okay, I have a question now that
Sure.
the House of Representatives is the one that originates bills, right?
Well, yeah, they
Yeah,
also, the
they're the
Senate
ones
does.
that originates it and then sends it over to, if they pass it, they send it over to the Senate, which becomes a
Well,
law.
both sides do. Go ahead.
No, well, they don't. The
Anyway, go
Senate,
ahead.
the Senate cannot devise a bill to,
Anyway, go ahead.
who controls the House?
Listen, they have sent,
They haven't sent
I
any
think it's
bills.
HR, no, they've sent HR1 over to the Senate. The Senate has been sitting on their back ends for at least 6, 7, 8, 10 months on this thing. Schumer has completely blocked that HR1, or could be HR2. I can't
Well,
remember what one it is.
I don't know
But
what that included.
they sent a bill over there and nothing has been done. I find it also amazing that our lawmakers have not given, the Senate has not given the verbatim, the text of what they're proposing in terms of their counter position. And how long has it been? 6,
Well,
8,
the
10
thing
weeks?
which I have against the government, Democrats have the majority in the Senate, right?
Mm-hmm.
By how many votes?
Couple,
Two votes?
couple, yeah.
Yeah. Why hasn't any of the Republicans, or why haven't any of the Democrats crossed over and said,
Because
okay,
they go in lockstep, my dear.
well, the same. The Republicans also go in lockstep. They go in lockstep. Whoever is, if it's a Republican, you don't have to. I don't know if you ever watch it. I get the Senate's live and the
C-SPAN,
Senate live and
yeah,
the House of Rep live
yeah.
on C-SPAN. And you don't really, who's gonna, one or two senators who cross over, who are the rebels, but that's it. Everybody goes in lockstep. And now they have this bill that is in controversy about supporting Ukraine and giving funds to Ukraine. But this is tied into reducing a certain amount of spending, which the Republicans, the fringe Republicans, are against. So the bill is not going anyplace. It's standing still.
Well, I understand that that the Speaker of the House, Mr. Johnson, would like to have bills separated so you don't have border issues tied up with Ukraine issues,
I
which
agree.
is totally
But,
absurd. It's
but,
absurd.
you heard what the Senate majority, the Speaker of the House said, the Speaker of the House of Rep. They asked him, "How are you going to rule our country?" And they said, "Read the Bible." He's a fundamentalist Christian.
That's fine. You know, you've got fundamentalist Muslims, you've got fundamentalist
Right.
Christians, you've got all different types of
So
people.
you're anti-abortion?
No, no, no. Bottom
He,
line is
he's
that
anti-abortion.
we are a country, we compromise. We do compromise, we come up with great
And then,
solutions. But this ongoing war is just absurd.
but that's at both sides.
I understand. I understand. But I also do understand that many of the things that the Democrats are accusing the Republicans of doing, in terms of weaponizing the departments. Well, guess who? Guess what? The Democrats have weaponized the Department of Justice. I mean, for example, somebody asked me, is Trump going to win? No, Trump is not going to win. And why is Trump not going to win? Because once again, Peter Strzok, he said it. He was the FBI guy who we got the email saying, we have an insurance policy. Whatever that insurance policy is, there's no way that Trump is ever going to win.
No,
So you don't have to be concerned about it.
well, Deborah, I remember back 4 years ago in the last election when Trump denied the fact that he lost. And you're the one that we did the show, and I can repeat the show that you said, well, he's going to drop this. This is just he's doing that now for whatever reason, but he's going to drop it and admit that Biden won. He hasn't done that yet. The thing which I don't mind, and the things which he when he came in, he was when Trump came in 8 years ago. He said, "Oh, I did away with all these regulations that were stifling big business." A lot of the regulations were prevent pollution, of us polluting the waters, of us polluting the skies, and we put regulations that large companies couldn't do it.
Yeah, and a lot of the regulations told individual private business owners that if they had a pond on their property, that was considered to be an ecological jewel, and they could not drain the pond, for example. I think what's happened at this point, Malcolm, there's a point where you need regulation for the government, and you need to get them out of the way.
Right.
And I got to tell you at this point right now, I wanted Biden to succeed. Okay. I didn't vote for him, but I wanted him to succeed because he's a president. He's my president.
Well,
okay?
Biden has succeeded.
No, he has succeeded in absolutely destroying this country. I cannot tell you the number. And I got to tell you, the people in New Hampshire, a CBS reporter went out and they talked to people in front of grocery stores, and were people PO'd? You bet they were. And they basically said, we cannot buy decent groceries. We cannot get our cars filled up with gasoline. We are just being eaten alive by this inflation. And guess what? That is all Bidenomics. And you know what? He doesn't give a hoot. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. He doesn't even know what the price of a quart of milk is. He doesn't even know what the price of a shake is. He has no concept of what he has done.
Why does he say? How much is a quart of milk?
He has not done anything for this country except for completely destroy this.
Okay,
and I just it gets me underneath my skin.
Well,
thank God we're here. Thank God we're here in South Carolina, because I got to tell you, all the people leaving California, I cannot tell you the number of good, solid friends who are abandoning California because it is too expensive. Normal people can't live, and the politicians could freaking care less. Well, guess what? Normal everyday people we've had it up to here. We're up to here with this. We're done with it.
Well, part of the problem is, which I looked into the situation about people moving because they can't afford their living. What happened is the middle class spent a lot of money when they were making a lot of money, and then all of a sudden there was a recession. They're not making this money anymore. The costs are not going up that great for them. But the thing is, their income has been cut back. Now they can't afford it because they overspent when they were younger. That's a lot of the problems here. People, because people thought this would go on forever, but now all of a sudden they had to leave their jobs. They're retiring, and they didn't have the savings or they didn't have the money to spend on that.
Well,
But
let me
anyway,
let
we
me
could
tell you.
talk.
Let me tell you.
I-
I I had to move my family 2,400 miles to get away from the chaos of California. And I'm a California native, and I was hysterical when I had to leave my home state. And I was forced out because of the craziness that were going on with certain politicians that raised property taxes. So my rent went up, my groceries are going up, and it's just continued at this point. Somehow or another, the Democrats have got to get a hold of things and realize that normal, everyday people like you and me at this point are fed up. We're done. And you're starting to see it again. Because I got to tell you, people are PO'd.
well, again, we're going to the same, same type of thing of, who's to blame, and we're trying to find blame. And I granted that we're not what we should be now. I mean, we're not be, I go back to the gun control and crime, and there is a way of there. You don't have to be 100%. You're right. The answer is compromise, but the question, nobody wants to compromise. Under that, I want to compromise. I don't want to compromise, but we're at the end of the show.
Oh, doggone it.
Yeah, we'll have to
You know,
extend it
we
to
are,
now.
listen, we may argue, but everybody has got to understand we are great friends, Malcolm, and I appreciate
Oh,
the opportunity to be
well,
on your program.
we're
And
not.
here's this is Max.
Yeah.
So
But by the way, it's our program, and
very good.
and we're not arguing. We're disagreeing on terms.
Yeah,
It's policy we're talking about.
it is. And it's got to be for the good. And that's why, once again, we're doing the manning up because at this point,
Well, that's why we're doing, because basically, which I feel, I'm not an expert on that, and and I don't think you're an expert on that. But you're saying your opinion, and your opinion is like every man. This is we are a cross section of the population.
mhm,
It's
we
not
are.
that I have any special knowledge. I see what's happening, have my opinion. You see what's you're happening, and you're having your opinion. And we have to find out if we could create legislation that could pass. Anyway, on that, all I know is that our time is up, and I will continue this next week.
Thank you so much, Malcolm.
Okay, and have a good election. Oh, you get to vote.
Yes, we do. So it's coming up.
By the way, do you vote according to the party, or liberals and Democrats can vote in the election?
Um, you have to assign yourself. I think that last week was the last opportunity you had to be able to assign yourself.
To party.
So,
Okay. So there can't be any crossovers.
no.
It should be interesting to see how your former governor is going to do.
Yeah,
Which
she,
according to
she has a lot of
recently,
enemies here for some
yeah,
reason.
at least according to recent polls, she ain't doing too well. Anyway, you have a good week, good
I
voting,
will.
and vote.
I will. You too.
Bye.
Bye bye now.